situation. There's a lot of news stories that can be covered, but when you have something that impacted this community as much as it did, I'm very thankful that the media covers this, because it's a really important topic about officers who were shot doing their job, but also what the impact was to this community and what this case meant to Central Ohio here over the last couple of weeks. So thank you for covering this. He's not here today, not able to be here, but I also want to thank the sheriff for his support in these situations. I served at his pleasure, and I'm very proud of my staff. Many of them are here today. I say it all the time, got the best in the business. I call them the varsity squad, and with that, the sheriff provides nothing but support to me and my division. I can't thank him enough for that as well. But today, this is not just about making arrests. It's about sending a message. I stood at this podium a couple of weeks ago, and I was asked, did I think that Daveonte Dixon, prior to his capture, had help getting away? One of you reporters asked me that question. And what I wanted to tell you was, of course I did. I thought that he had help. You don't single-handedly evade capture from 100 Central Ohio police officers, the best in the business, without help that night. Which brings us here today. And as you know, Dixon was arrested for trying to kill 2 Mifflin Township police officers who were just doing their job when they conducted that traffic stop in Clinton Township that night. And today, we're here because 8 of those people made a decision to help a man who tried to kill 2 police officers. Let that sink in. They didn't panic. They didn't report him. They became part of Dixon's safe house circle, if you will. His little network of enablers who gave him rides. They served as communication lines from one to another. In some cases, they provided disguises, and they turned their homes into hideouts. And so today is about the names of those people that we took into custody this morning with the help of the U.S. Marshal Service. And so those people were Caitlin Mellon, 25 years old, Grace Mellon, 23 years old, Nathan Brown, 22 years old, Anusta Solomon, 21 years old, Isaiah Engel, 23 years old, Elijah Robinson, 22 years old, Namina Goller, 20 years old, and Latoya Birdsong, 42 years old. And of course, you guys know about the previous arrest with Jalen Call last week, or whatever the date was. So that's a total of 10 people who contributed to this absolutely senseless act. These were Dixon's trap rat friends, people who apparently thrive off of chaos and think justice can be outrun. Instead of taking a $40,000 reward, they chose to help a cop shooter try to disappear. Ended up in handcuffs, in a jail cell, and into the same spotlight of accountability that Dixon has. And with the help of the U.S. Marshal Service, Marshal Michael Black, and his staff, who I can't thank enough, and also the FCSO detectives, many of them are here today, the FCSO Special Investigations Unit, the FCSO SWAT team, we tracked down Dixon's trail, door by door, car by car, and lie by lie. And we found what we needed, not just because of what they said, because what they couldn't hide. And so these 8 people, and Jay LaCall previously, tried to shield the shooter, but they couldn't shield the truth. And to the officers that were targeted, to the families, to the officers that risked their lives to bring Dixon into custody, and to this community, we're not going to let people who aid violence walk away without consequences. And before I close, I want to thank the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, Shayla Favor and her staff, for their counsel, and who undoubtedly will see this case through. Lastly, I want to thank the Franklin County Board of Commissioners for their support. As Chief Deputy, who has the duty of managing public safety assets and resources, and as a taxpayer myself, I live in this county too. The impact and the direct and indirect costs of the actions of Dixon and his now 9 Safe House Circle friends is absolutely maddening. And we'll work with the Board of Commissioners to figure out how we manage that going forward. And I'll leave you with this. Justice wasn't denied. It was just delayed for those that were involved. And as of today, that delay is over. So again, I want to thank you guys and for covering this. And I want to thank Marshal Black and his staff. And with that, Marshal.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here this afternoon to cover this. As a law enforcement community, we continue to show the value of partnership, collaboration, and the sharing of information and resources. This is another example of our sustained relationship with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. We remain focused to rid our community of these violent fugitives. We are consistently asking the public to assist us in removing violent criminals from our neighborhoods. These individuals we apprehended today had an opportunity to help us capture Dixon before he committed another violent act. Instead, they chose to help him evade arrest. By doing this, they put members of our community in harm's way, to include children, innocent bystanders, and our law enforcement officers. This will not be tolerated. I've said this numerous times over the past few years as we continue the extremely difficult task of locating and apprehending violent fugitives that attempt to evade capture. If you are found to be assisting them, you will more than likely be charged. Today's arrest served as examples. We will continue to look for support from our community, and we are extremely appreciative when we receive valuable information that leads to an arrest of a violent criminal. Thank you for being here. Oh, sorry, sir. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mifflin Township Trustee Kevin Kamener.
Thank you very much. And I want to just say thank you for keeping this story alive. I just want to give you a quick update on the two officers. Out of 15 shots that were fired, 11 shots hit their bodies. One officer is out of the hospital. He still doesn't have use of his right hand. They're hoping that as the swelling goes down in therapy, he won't need surgery. The other officer is still in the hospital. He's getting better. He's allowed to walk in the hallways now, and soon he will be going to inpatient therapy. I'm just thankful for all the care that he's getting in the grant. He's out of danger, but he has a long way to go. And I'm just thankful to the marshals, the sheriffs, for getting these 8 people off the street. And now I just hope that the prosecutors and the judges will keep them in jail. Thank you so much.
We're going to open up to any questions that you guys might have.
My first one would just be simple. Could you state everyone's name and spell it for me so I get it right in the title?
We'll send it to you. How about we do
that works great. Thank you. Thank you.
Next.
Are you looking for anybody else? Do you believe anybody else out there?
We're not done, Steve. We're going to continue to gather information. So these people, we had an opportunity to re-interview them today. More information was developed. And so today I can't announce any more arrests, but I can tell you if there are other people that are involved in this situation that helped Dixon stay away and put the community in danger, as long as I'm standing in this role, they're going to jail. So yeah, the work continues.
Were they cooperative? Did they show any sign of remorse when you arrested them?
We did not have any trouble apprehending any of them. They were surprised, but as far as we were very fortunate that there was no acts of violence or any trouble getting them all 8 in apprehension today.
So all 8 are in custody?
Yes, sir.
8 for 8.
Can you talk about the ways that these people help hide Dixon?
Each one of these people played a little bit different role. All of them were overt acts, and those varied from providing rides. As I mentioned, in some cases, provided disguises to move from one place to another without being discovered. Dixon, when he was arrested, obviously, you guys haven't asked about it yet, but sure, certainly you will, he was still armed. And he was considered armed the whole time. And so we're still vetting some of that out. I'm confident that we're probably going to charge some people with additional weapons charges. And so they all help with, at varying levels, but all of them were overt acts. They knew that he was had warrants for his arrest. Many of them talked about that. So it wasn't like they were, unwittingly helping their friend. No, they knew exactly what he had done and the impact he had. And they chose not to cooperate. They chose not to just say, hey, you're a hot potato and stay away. No, they chose to advance his efforts to evade arrest. And for that reason, that's why they're all in jail today.
Do they all know each other? Are they all connected, or are they just pieces of his life that just happen to come together?
Yeah, many of them knew each other. I want to refer to them as their safe house circle, if you will. I don't know, but they had some relationship with one another. They knew of each other, or knew somebody who knew somebody. But the bottom line is, they all helped this guy stay on the loose for a couple days and put the entire Central Ohio community at risk. And if there's more out there, they're going to jail too. So we may add to this list. We got 10, maybe we'll get to 12 or 15, who knows?
In the court affidavits that were filed with this, you said that there was a deputy who was doing surveillance on one of these locations who had eyes on Dixon and saw him get in a car and leave, doing some sort of surveillance behind him. Why not take a chance to stop him then versus letting him continue to be on the run?
I'm not going to sit here and armchair quarterback what an officer had out there. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, whether there's backup there. You're talking about a guy who just shot 2 cops. And whether he had backup or whatever, I'm not going to question whether they took that person into custody. I don't know that the situation you're describing is even truthful. But if it is, I'm not in a position to armchair quarterback what that officer saw and the reason he acted or didn't act in that moment. All I know is Dixon's in jail, and no one else, by the grace of God, was injured because of it. I know that a whole bunch of officers, many are in this room, risked their life to bring him into custody. And the only one that was injured out of this, other than the Mifflin officers, was Dixon himself. And thankfully, no one else was. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and armchair quarterback why they didn't take him this day versus that day or what have you.
Can you go into any detail as to the types of disguises that Dixon used?
Not in particular. Again, these cases will be adjudicated in court. Hopefully, in the next week or so, these cases will all be indicted. But as of today, they're charged with obstructing. All of them are charged with obstructing. I think one individual does have a dangerous ordinance charge that because there was an accessory on the vehicle or on one of the guns that was not permissible. But again, when it goes to the grand jury may see that it's appropriate for more charges. And I mean, honestly, it wouldn't disappoint me if that happened either. So
Dixon did shoot himself. Can you say anything about his recovery, if he's going to be walking in court?
I don't, you know what, I have not visited the hospital to see his recovery. He's alive, he is recovering as well, and when it's appropriate, his case will be indicted as well, and he'll face the music on that. And but yeah, I don't have any information on his condition, and I'm not evading the question. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So,
is there any updated information now that we're a couple of weeks removed from the initial incident about what led to that first traffic stop and what may have prompted him to run from the car in the first place?
Yeah, and so I have it written here, so I keep getting back out my notes because we had some questions that were emailed from some news outlets that were unable to attend, and so a couple of questions, one of which was asked by WSU was why was the car stopped? And so the initial stop was a traffic stop. Now the way it works, and if I can describe this, what happens is you have a dispatcher who's many miles away from where the location of the stop is. The officer gives merely a code, and the code is 86. That's the code for a traffic stop. But the officers generally don't report the details of what the stop was for until the conclusion, if they do, at the conclusion of the stop. But see, this one never got there. Shortly after the stop, chaos breaks out, and we heard 15 shots were fired, or 15
shots.
Yeah, and so so I did not have the answer to that question initially. The only people that knew the answer to that question would have been the 2 officers And we were more concerned about their recovery than we were asking them about that. So that brings me to this. What was the stop for? The car was acting suspicious in the area. It kept stopping and starting in the middle of the street and in the middle of intersections, blocking traffic. The officer initiated a traffic stop in 86 to investigate what's going on. Do you need help? What have you? When he approached the car, another question by WSU was what was said at the car. Obviously, the officer, I'm paraphrasing, what are you doing? Where are you in the area? The officer did ask for identification. The driver had his, the passenger did not. And the officer inquired about the smell of marijuana in the car. And the next thing you know, the passenger bails out and you know the rest of the story. So hopefully that answers your question and that of WOSU, who was asking the same.
Have you recovered the gun that was used in the shooting of the Mifflin officers?
We have. That was recovered the night of. So Dixon acquired another gun when he was on the loose with the help of his trap rat friends here.
Are you able to say what kind of gun, if there was a Glock switch involved?
I can't get into the specifics. Again, cases will be adjudicated and all that kind of stuff. It's not that I don't want to answer. Come on, I could sit here and talk all day about this case. You can see I'm a little amped on this. I mean, this is one of those cases that you don't get. It's not the garden variety case. You got two cops that are shot, and you got a whole bunch of people, many of which in this room, that worked their tails off to bring these people to justice. And so I'm sad for the officers, but I'm super proud for the people that worked on this case as well.
It's hard to believe it's been 3 weeks. It feels longer than that, especially with what happened in Morrow County, Hamilton County. Can you just talk about the overall feeling being in law enforcement after these last few weeks?
You know what comes to mind when you ask that question is somebody that's smart, far smarter than I am. He's a retired administrator, commander from CPD. He always says that law enforcement's the toughest job in America. We can sit here and debate that all day long. But here are the officers who go out into the street with the intention to just keep their community safe. And they do what they think they need to do that. They investigate situations. In this situation, here's a car acting weird in the middle of the street. The officer pulls up, needed help or whatever. That traffic stop could have went much different. But instead, somebody bailed out of the car and started firing on these guys. 15 shots, okay? So then you got some of our colleagues who are laid up in the hospital and our attention is on them. We want to go be with them, but at the same time, we got to chase down the guys responsible for it. And all along, you got 8 of his friends that are helping him and all kinds of stuff. And so, law enforcement gets questioned a lot for what their actions do. And sometimes, rightfully so. I'm not going to argue some of the behavior that happens across the country. But you're right. Lately, with the amount of officers that have been assaulted, the officers that have lost their lives, and the impact of those communities and this community, as you see here, I can't imagine what they're going through in Morrow County. And we're thankful that the 2 officers didn't lose their life here in Central Ohio. But yeah, it takes a toll on you. I mean, like I said, these guys work day and night. The night of the incident, I had to basically suspend the operation at 3 o'clock in the morning because these guys are running on fumes. It wasn't because they didn't want to keep working. It's because at some point as an administrator, you have to recognize that people run out of gas. Go home, let's get a little sleep, let's get back at it again. And I think I mentioned the first press conference. I came back in the next morning, these guys were already writing search warrants and knocking on doors when I walked in there because I was like, where are we at? And it's like a ghost town in the office. Oh, they're all out beating the streets, chief. And I'm like, geez. So it takes a toll on them. But you know what? Today's a good day. Went out this morning looking to arrest 8 people who helped this. And with the help of our good friends here, very quickly they were all apprehended and no one got hurt. And that's a good day.
You said he acquired another gun while he was on the run. Any idea where that came from and if the person that facilitated that could be involved with
I think I know,
charges?
but I can't tell you today because we're still in consultation with the prosecutor's office on what the appropriate charge is. But we know where it came from. How about that? What else you got? That it? Again, I just want to thank you guys for covering this. There's a lot of news stories out there you guys can run around on, and one that impacts the community like this. I'm glad you're covering it. Like I said in my last comment there, the impact on this community and what these kinds of cases do. As an administrator, I gotta try to manage assets, and we're in budget cycle right now. I'm planning for 2026, and how am I going to run my division and help the sheriff's office run its budget? These are the things that you don't plan for. These aren't the little ancillary things. Oh, we forgot to dot an I or cross a T in last year's budget. These are the things you can't plan for. This case, if you look at the man hours, the impact, the officers are injured, the healthcare costs, the court cases, you're talking millions, and you can't plan for that. But you know what? That's why I thank the commissioners here at the end, because the commissioners will work together. We'll figure out how we're going to get through this financially. Mifflin Township will figure out how they're going to manage. We're losing a large portion of their staff. These are the things you can't plan for. And so this day doesn't end for us. There's still work to do. And so I'm just glad you guys are covering it. So with that, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. I'm just Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.